Today, we are diving into a really fascinating philosophical journey. It's the story of one man's climb to become what the philosopher Nietzsche famously called the Übermensch, or Superman. So let's get into this solitary ascent and the huge questions it leaves us with. All right, this single analogy right here, it frames everything we're going to talk about. It's a story about massive ambition, about transcending what it means to be human, and, the hidden, often brutal cost of reaching that absolute peak.
And yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? We're going to explore it through the story of a character named Cillian. When you get to the top of that lonely tower, is the view one of ultimate power, or is it something way more tragic? So Cillian's story kicks off with a pretty radical choice. He completely rejects the values of his society, what Nietzsche kinda cynically called the herd. This is the world Cillian was born into, and when he looks around, he doesn't see virtues like kindness as genuine strengths. No, he sees them as a clever trick, a coping mechanism for the powerless, a morality that's really just born out of resentment, designed to hold the strong people back.
So this shows you the two warring ideas at the heart of Cillian's world. On one side, you have the collective values of the herd, and on the other, you've got master morality. This is where the sovereign individual doesn't just follow the law, he is the law. For him, good is just a word for his own strength, his own will. And Cillian doesn't just pick a side, he declares all-out war on the other.
His philosophy is, well, brutally simple. He sees the world as a game, full of questionable means that are just there to be manipulated. To him, greed isn't some terrible sin. It's just being honest about your own self-interest in a world that he thinks is full of hypocrites.
And this personal creed, it sets him on this wild path of spiritual evolution. It actually lines up perfectly with Nietzsche's framework of the spirit's three great transformations, or metamorphoses. The journey from being a follower to a true creator of your own destiny involves these three stages. First, you're the camel, who carries burdens. Then, the lion, who destroys old values. And finally, the child, who creates entirely new ones.
Okay, so first, Cillian is the camel. He has to endure the crushing weight of his reality. He's a peasant with no land in a world filled with war and poverty. He learns to carry this massive burden, and that gives him the toughness he's going to need for what comes next.
Then, boom, he transforms into the lion. This is where he violently rejects everything the herd values. This sacred no is basically his declaration of war on tradition, on guilt, on anything and everything holding him back. He literally creates his freedom by destroying what came before. And finally, he becomes the child. Now, here's where things get weird. A strange twist of fate throws him into the 20th century, and he doesn't despair about everything he's lost. Instead, he says a sacred yes to this totally new existence. Like a child, he sees this new world as a brand new game, a clean slate where he can just invent his own rules from scratch.
So how does he actually put this philosophy into practice? Well, it's through his signature skill, archery. But for Cillian, his bow and arrow are way, way more than just a weapon. The will to power is pretty much the engine that drives all of Nietzsche's philosophy, and it's the force behind every single thing Cillian does. It's this deep, innate desire not just to stay alive, but to grow, to dominate, to literally impose your own will onto the world.
And this is where it all connects. His bow becomes the physical expression of his will. Think about it. The insane discipline it takes to master that weapon is a form of self-overcoming. He's conquering his own physical and mental limits to become this perfectly honed instrument of his own power.
All right, so let's see what happens when this medieval master is violently ripped from his world and dropped right into the 20th century.
He literally goes from a dark forest into a concrete jungle. But the chaos, the cynicism, the self-interest of 1970s America, it doesn't shock him at all. In fact, he feels completely at home. He's like a ghost in the machine, totally invisible to this new, modern herd. Now check this out, because this is so important. Cillian doesn't really change. The world around him changes in a way that suddenly rewards his exact nature. The brutal survival tactics he learned in a medieval war, well, that's just called corporate ruthlessness now. His status as an outsider becomes the celebrated lone wolf of the modern city.
So he does it. He succeeds. He masters this new world just like he mastered the old one. But what's the end result of this incredible ultimate victory?
The perfect term for what he achieves is a Pyrrhic victory.
It means you won, sure, but the cost of winning was so devastating that it might as well have been a defeat. You win so hard, you actually lose.
Wow, what a powerful metaphor, right? Like Stingy Jack from the old folktales trapped between heaven and hell, Killian becomes this hollowed-out figure. He is the absolute master of his virtues, courage, insight, solitude, but he's spiritually homeless. He doesn't belong to any time or to any people.
So here's the final balance sheet of his entire journey. On one side, he gained absolute power, total freedom. But look what he lost. All human connection, any sense of belonging, any kind of community. He transcended humanity only to find himself utterly and completely alone.
When you're at the very, very top, there's nowhere else to look but down on the world you left so far behind. It's a view of dominance, absolutely, but it's also a view of profound, inescapable loneliness. And that is the ultimate paradox of his life. The very freedom he fought so brutally to achieve ends up becoming his own personal prison. His independence, his inability to trust anyone or connect with anyone, it seals him off from the world entirely.
Which brings us all the way back to that tower we started with. Cillian built his tower, he touched the stars, but standing up there on that summit, with absolutely no one to share that incredible view with, and no way to ever come back down, was it really a victory? Or was that the ultimate, terrible price of power? It's definitely something to think about.